Welcome back to Creative Thinkers. Again, my name is Miguel Valenzuela, and I want to thank our viewers for joining us today. We have a wonderful guest, Ms. Carmelina Venzor, and she is the owner of Carmelina's Etiquette and Protocol. Carmelina, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm super excited that you're here because one of the things that I have always aspired to do is take an etiquette class. And we'll be talking a little bit about that. But first, I want to learn a little bit about who you are, how you grew up. Who are you, in essence? You were born in El Paso. I think that's one of the things that you mentioned.
Yes.
What area of town did you grow up in? What was your background? What were your influences?
I grew up on Cypress Street, right across the Chamizal, when Chamizal wasn't there and Bowie wasn't there. So that was a long time ago. And went to Jefferson High School and come from a family of 8 children. And I had a stay-home mom. And we had a lot of learning from having a stay-home mom, like keep your mouth closed when you eat, don't put your elbows on the table. Even if we had fideos and beans, we had the table set up.
Nice.
And so she learned that from her 2 grandmas, because she was raised with, my mother was raised with her 2 grandmas. So, you know, they had that European training. And so we have, you know, the different training that we learned when we're growing up. And then you're released from...
Right, you're allowed to spread your wings, right?
Yes.
But as a child, do you think that that influenced what you do today?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, yes, because, you know, you're training that child, you know, it's not going to grow itself.
That's very true.
Okay. You know,
so you have to water it like a plant, right?
Yes, yes. So, you know, mommy was very strict. Con permiso, buenas tardes. You know, she was always, you know, be polite, don't interrupt. You know, it was all the foundation. I grew up with all that strong foundation, which even my child didn't have that because I was a working mom. And so, you know, a lot of children now have parents that both work.
Or it might be a single parent, for example, as well, right?
Yes. And you know, so they're growing up in daycares or after-school programs, and, you know, it's not the same.
And unfortunately, that's just something that's not offered at a daycare, right?
Right.
How to kind of deal with other people on a day-to-day basis as far as etiquette is concerned. So as you're growing up, you're going to Jeff, you're already spreading your wings. What kinds of influences did you have there? And did they help you in what you're doing today?
Well, we were having lunch in the cafeteria one afternoon, and the intercom came on, and they were announcing the popular high fashion board, and that anybody interested could apply. And there was these 3 girls, and I don't remember who they were. Somebody just sat at the table, and they looked at me and they said, "You need to apply for that. We dare you, and we double dare you, and we triple dare you." And I thought, okay,
I'll do it.
I'll do it.
And by popular, you mean the store?
The store, the Popular Dry Goods,
Right, right.
And so I took the application. I went to the counselor, got the application. I took it home and showed it to mommy, and she agreed.
Nice.
She agreed, which was a rare thing because there was 8 of us and we couldn't participate in, you know, school events or, you know, cheerleading and that sort of thing, band, because it costs money.
Right.
It costs money. So, but she agreed to this one.
How did you work that out?
Well,
were you just lucky that day?
Yes, yes. All the stars were in the right place. Right? Yes. And she took me across the border and had a headshot taken and a full-length picture, submitted it to the Popular, and well, I gave it to the counselor, and then he submitted it. And out of everybody that applied at Jefferson, I got picked.
Wow. But what did that mean? What did you do then? What was that, those events that you had to cover at the Popular?
Well, up to that point, I was I had terrible self image of myself because I was 5'8.5" and weighed 102 pounds. So I was a real skinny kid, very tall. And I used to hunch over, and I used to put my lips inside because that was one thing that they made fun of because I had big lips.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
really?
yeah, mumble lips, bozo lips, bumper lips.
So you didn't fit in. You weren't the typical student, I guess, or the typical girl.
Yeah, because I was way too tall for my generation and this environment, and so I stuck out.
Like a sore thumb.
Yes. So I tried to fit by hunching over and just trying to fit in. And being selected to the board, that was like huge.
I can imagine.
That was huge. That just kind of like, wow, I guess it's okay to be skinny. And
so it was almost like they accepted you?
Yeah, acceptance.
And of course, that brought your self-esteem up.
Yep.
When you're at the Popular, what types of activities did you guys do?
We would do...
Or what did they teach you?
Everything. The basic walk. It wasn't like really, defined, but it was, walking one line and how to put your hands on your hips if you're going to be turning, that sort of thing. And then they would review what was trending, the different... I learned about the different types of shoes and what they were called, because growing in the barrio, I mean, we don't know what an Oxford shoe is.
Right.
We don't know what, an espadrille is,
Right.
So I learned a lot of that stuff. And then we would do vignettes, little fashion shows throughout the stores. And then we had a uniform that we would wear, certain days of the week at the school because we were representing the high fashion board.
Like outfits?
Like it was a uniform.
Oh,
it was a
okay.
uniform. And
I bet that made you feel great.
oh yeah.
The one that nobody said it. I mean, everybody said, hey, you know what? She's not like us.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you're standing out, right?
Yes.
In a good way, according to them.
Yes.
So how did they respond to that?
It was well, yeah, you're skinny enough. You're skinny enough, and tall enough. So it was a good thing. And after I graduated high school, I went to work for the Popular, and I ended up decorating the windows for the Popular. I had other jobs before I got to doing the windows, but that was the most fun job.
But was that kind of like a segue into that kind of job, being accepted to that through that application?
Well, I guess in my mind, being part of the high fashion board, opened something in me that I can work here if I want to. I don't have to go to Newberry's or one of the other, stores.
Right.
I could work here if I want to, because I already know how the store is laid out, and that's, I already had that advantage.
Absolutely. And there's many advantages in the world. And I think, especially through this show, one of the things that we need to focus on is creativity. So as you went on, did you get married? Did you move away? Did you stay in El Paso?
I met my husband in window number 2.
So that brought you a husband as well?
Yes, yes. I had 2 assistants because I was the supervisor. And I had 2 assistants, Rose and Sammy, and both of them called in sick that day.
Ooh.
And I had these big panels that I had to hang from the ceiling, and I was trying, but I just couldn't get it done. So I called my boss and I said, boss, I said, send me a body. I need someone to come and help me. I can't do this by myself.
So he worked there?
He worked at the warehouse building the props for the windows.
Okay.
And so they sent him, and
So
we met.
then you got married. Did you stay in El Paso? Did you move away?
My husband joined the Air Force, and we got stationed in Japan. That was our first assignment, and I got recruited to an agency while I was there. And it just finds me. Wherever we got stationed, it would find me. Someone would, say, hey, you need to go here or you need to go there, and it just kept coming up through the whole 20 years that my husband was in the military. And so I did a lot of work while I was in Japan. Amazing opportunities that I have from working in Japan. They just opened the gates for me.
Do you think that it was because you weren't the stereotype? Not the typical female in Japan?
No, I think that, and this is what a professor we met said, that the Japanese had a debt of gratitude to our people because we welcomed their children when they sent their children away from Japan because of the war. And so the Mexican people were very gracious with their children. And so they had a gratitude to pay back. And so they just rolled the red carpet for us, and it was amazing. It was amazing, all the things I did, my gosh.
And what kinds of things did you do? Let's hear about those, because you brought photographs, of which we will see.
I was on the cover of a magazine, centerfold, and it was the centerfold, the front page, and then 2 more pictures. I would go fly to other islands to do shows. I mean, it was amazing. It was amazing. Shows that I did the Nippon Designers Club, which is the designers design specifically for your body, and then it's a competition, and the competition is for a scholarship to go to Paris to do couture, couture training, fashion design and all that, and so it was just incredible. I can
only imagine.
Yeah, and so they thought I was a Nisei. A Nisei is a half Japanese, half something else.
I was going to say that it looks like you are kind of Asian in some way.
Yeah, and back
then. Do you have that?
I don't think so. I think it's the indigenous part of my
Very
heritage,
yeah.
And back then, of course, my eyes were a lot more slanted, and the skin was a little tighter. So I kind of blended into.
So they were even
their
happier
culture.
then, right?
Oh yeah.
So after Japan and doing all of these modeling shows and whatnot, what did you do? Did you guys come back to the United States?
We got stationed in Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas.
Oh, nice. I bet there's tons of opportunity there. But you did mention that there is quite a story.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, I had my portfolio, and I looked in the yellow pages, went to all the agencies, and I was turned away.
Why?
Because I was the wrong color, I was the wrong type, I was not marketable. That's what I was told.
Okay.
And so I said, okay, well, go back to work in retail. I had a background in retail, so I went to work at the Fashion Show Mall in Las Vegas at Goldwater's, and a girl that was handing out samples at the store, approached me and says, what are you doing here? You should be modeling. And I'm like, oh, I tried that route already, but, I was turned away. Oh, no, she goes, you need to go talk to this lady. And she handed me a card. And so I went and talked to the lady, showed her my book, showed her, told her what I had done. And she brought me on. And I started the training to become an instructor.
Instructor
to
in what?
Etiquette, protocol, merchandising, anything that had to do with the visual displays, And when you get a chance, Google Bernie Lenz.
Okay.
And she was a giant. I had no idea.
And that's who you studied under?
Yeah. Now, Bernie Lenz is the lady that sold the curriculum to Barbizon here in El Paso.
Oh, okay.
And she's the one that sold the curriculum to the agency that I was with in California.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, she wrote the book.
Right, right.
She wrote the book.
And by curriculum, what exactly does that entail?
Everything. Social graces, how to introduce a person, who do you introduce first, who's the most important, seating arrangements, how do you sit at a table when you're with other people, how to sit correctly, how to
Sit correctly.
Yeah,
I try.
instead of throw yourself on the couch and you get to someone's home and they just take a dive into the couch, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And so that, how to shake hands, how many times do you pump the hand, when do you shake hands, because there's, depending on where you travel, handshaking is
that's
not
true. Yes, yes.
So being
It
in
might
Japan,
be a nod or something like that, right?
And then a lot of places, kiss multiple times on the cheeks, and so around the world, there's different cultures and different customs, and so being prepared for that is important. You don't know if you're going to have, what kind of boss you're going to have, who you're going to encounter throughout your travels, or where your children will go.
Right.
So all this training is to prepare you for the social and the workforce, and also a lot of companies are interviewing during lunchtime or dinner time, and so that was part of the training.
So give us an example, because I know that you might meet somebody, you don't know who this person is. They might be the Prince of Wales. We don't know, right? When we just meet people out on the street, and maybe not so much in El Paso, but maybe you travel out to New York or Los Angeles. You never know. It's always important to be prepared.
Yes.
But what kinds of things can people be prepared as far as etiquette is concerned when meeting somebody?
Well, I think one of the most important, especially in this time, is things that we don't discuss. When you meet somebody or you're at a table eating, is politics, money, and religion.
You just don't touch those.
No-nos.
No-nos. Well, why is that?
Anything,
because you quite often hear people
Oh, yeah.
discussing these things.
Yeah.
And then an argument ensues, right?
Yes.
Which is something you don't want to deal with.
No, because you're there to enjoy each other's company, and you don't want to talk about anything that's going to split the group.
Oh.
You want to talk about current events that are not going to be controversial. I had a student that, because I got in so much trouble last night. Miss Carmelina, I got in so much trouble. What did you do? Well, I started talking about the babysitter took me to school and she ran over a dog. And he described everything about the dog at the table. Well, it just kind of upset somebody's stomach, because he was talking about what happened to the dog.
Right.
So you don't want to talk about any topics that is going to ruin somebody's appetite.
Okay.
So talk about movies, talk about books, talk about, the weather, things that everybody can collaborate.
And how important is it for one to bring up subjects? Because I understand that there's a lot of people that may just sit at a table and not even interact with anybody. Why is it important?
Well, and then there's the other, there's cultures that you sit at the table and you eat, you do not talk.
Which culture is that? Never heard of that.
Indian.
Really?
Yeah.
When you eat, you eat.
You eat.
Here in the United States, though, a little bit different, right?
Yes. Yes.
Why is it important to interact?
Well, because that might be the only time of day that you have with that person. So you're talking about, how was your day? How was your test? Did you have your car inspected?
Right.
Things that are going to be easy to deal with and not make a conflict, because right now everybody wants to talk about things that are controversial, and and that's going to make people uncomfortable and ruin your appetite, ruin your meal.
Absolutely.
And, yeah.
I agree with that. One other thing that you had mentioned earlier was how it may come into play that etiquette is important when you meet somebody as far as a job is concerned. You talked about how some people interview individuals or prospective workers during meal times, during dinners. What kinds of things can they do to make sure that they come off the right way?
Well, for one, your image on what you wear. And when I lived in California, we got stationed in California. I worked for a staffing company, and people would come either dressed in gym clothes, or they would come dressed like they were going. Yeah, to apply. Okay.
Wow.
Or they would come dressed like they were going to a disco party with stilettos and shiny, sparkly clothes. And it's like, what message are you portraying? So that's important. The message, the whole package. What is it that you're, the impression you're going to make? So when you show up for the interview, do you shake hands? Do you, do you not shake hands? What is it that, what are you going to do? Yeah, what are you going to do? And so right now with what's happening in our environment, we're not shaking hands, but, if you are going to shake hands, you're going to shake hands and you're going to shake once and look at the person in the eye, because that's important. Not they're shaking the shoulder out of your body, just once.
They're trying to kind of encroach on who you are as a person.
Yes.
I think sometimes, and that's not a good thing, right?
No, because you don't know if that person has issues with her shoulder.
It could
or
be as simple as that, right?
Yes. And then women, we wear rings, and you squeeze the hand too tight.
Very true.
So firm and don't squeeze the hand to death. And then if you're going to be interviewed over a meal, what is the first thing you do? Do you look at the person that possibly is going to be your boss to see what he's going to do? But if you have training, then you're going to know that immediately the first thing you do is you're going to grab the napkin and you're going to place it on your lap, and start from the outside coming in. So, if you're going to be working with executives, that's important training. You don't want to be there, grabbing food with your hands, and when it's not proper, you're not at home. At home, you can, if your parents allow you to eat however, that's at home. But when you're in public, socially, these are important skills to know, how to cut one piece at a time. Don't put your elbows on the table. Don't lick your fingers, that sort of thing. Don't stick your finger in your mouth because you got something stuck back there. So all these things are important to be a well-rounded person. You could have
Absolutely.
a PhD, a 2-3 masters, but you might not be getting promoted because you don't have these skills. You're not well-rounded. So it's important. It's very important to have these skills. And so my goal is to start my manners epidemic.
And take care of it, right?
Yes.
So your business is called Etiquette and Protocol.
Yes.
And through Etiquette and Protocol, you said that you want to start fixing it. How are you going to fix it?
Well, I'm knocking on doors, and Rosa Guerrero put me on a mission. She says, you cannot leave El Paso because you have to teach our Mexicanitos how to eat with silverware and not just pan and tortillas. These are the exact words of Rosa Guerrero when she was in my house. You cannot leave El Paso, because I was ready to
I'm out of here.
Yeah, because it's so hard. It's so hard. People think, I know how to eat. You're not going to tell me how to, it's
Este
like,
es mi tenedor, ¿verdad?
Yeah, so a lot of times, you get to a banquet and you're like, oh my gosh, this is a 5-course meal. They don't even know it's a 5-course meal. All these knives and all these forks, which one do I use? And then they grab, they're left-handed, they grab the glass that's on the left, okay? You're gonna set the whole table out of sync because you picked the wrong glass, okay? So the knife is going to be pointing to your water glass, and that is your signal. The knife pointing to that glass is your glass. And so, I always tell them, and remember, BMW, bread and butter, meal, and water.
Ooh,
BMW.
I like that.
And that's an easy way to figure out. And the other thing is, on the left side is all the implements for the solids.
Okay.
And on the right side is all the implements for the liquids.
Like soups and whatnot.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
So,
see, those are all things that I think are very important for our general public to know.
Yes.
We're getting close to ending the show. What is some advice that you can give people without really taking your class? But of course, we want them to take your class.
Absolutely.
So what's some quick advice that you can give them aside from the BMW?
Yeah. Be kind and polite, and practice, kindness, and try your best to be proper, and invest in yourself.
Absolutely.
Invest in yourself, because a lot of times, we take all the requirements, but we don't invest in personal development, and knowing all these things that are crucial to a career, any kind of career, and not only, even if you're a stay-home mom, take the class so you can teach the kids, and the grandkids, because this is knowledge that will make or break a person.
And not just that, it can keep going for generations as long as you teach them that. Try to be as correct as possible.
Yeah.
Try to be as polite as possible. Try to be as generous as possible.
Yes.
And just in general, be the best person that you can be, right?
Yeah.
Very good. I wanted to thank you very much for taking the time to come out here, because again, I know how important it is for everybody to grow as individuals. One of the things that I teach my students is that knowledge is power.
Yes.
And a lot of times the students think knowledge is equal to whatever my field is. An example that I gave you earlier, and we were talking before we came onto the show, was if somebody wants to be a nurse, for example, yeah, you can be a nurse, but you also want to be a well-rounded individual, which is very, very important. Yeah. So once again, thank you very much for joining us and taking the time out to talk to us.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I want to thank all of our viewers for tuning in and talking or listening to us talk to Carmelina Venzor. Thank you very much.